Hi, I'm Billum, and today we're looking at Soul Blazer. Fair warning, I will be discussing the story of this game, so expect some spoilers. Soul Blazer is a Super Nintendo game that came out back in 1992. It was created by Quintet and is part of a loose series of games from that publisher. Some consider it to be a trilogy followed by Illusion of Gaia and Terenigma. Others include ActRaiser and the Grandstream saga in the series, which is a bit poetic since that's a quintet of games. Soul Blazer is an action RPG that puts players in the role of, well, a Soul Blazer. You're a servant of the Master, let's not kid ourselves here, it's God, and your job is to save all the souls that have been trapped by monsters and are stored in their nests. How did these souls get trapped? Turns out the king sold them to Deathtoll, who's an evil spirit or something along those lines. The dialogue in this game can be a bit strange at times. I'm not sure if that's due to the translation, or if it's the same in the original Japanese, but it's worth pointing out as it feels like some of the finer details are lost because of it. Alright, we're in the soul selling business. The king must have been making a killing doing that. Wait, he's only getting a single gold coin for each soul? Looks like diplomacy was not this guy's strong suit. Either way, Soul Blazer sets out to free the souls and collect 6 magic gems that will allow him to fight Deathtoll in the world of evil. Along the way, the Soul Blazer will run into loads of people willing to help him out. One of the more noteworthy of these is Lisa. She appears in Grass Valley, which is the first area of the game. Lisa is worth noting as she's the daughter of Dr. Leo. He's the inventor of a machine that allows the king to communicate with Deathtoll. Don't blame Dr. Leo for this though, he was only doing it to protect his daughter. The good doctor also sacrifices himself later on to kill some guards and the queen of the evil king, who it turns out was being manipulated by his wife and maybe isn't actually evil. Jury's still out on that one though. There's also a bit of a budding romance between the Soul Blazer and Lisa. It kinda just pops up late game, unless you consider Crab walking away from her bed as a sign of affection, and doesn't get much time for development, but it's there. What's really great about Soul Blazer is its variety. For example, it isn't just human souls being saved. Sometimes it's just a flower, or an animal like a deer or a dog. Other times, it's the Great Deku Tree himself. Being an emissary of the Master means that the Soul Blazer can speak to all living things, and that includes plants and animals. They, in turn, can help him on his journey. It's a neat little twist that gives the game its own little flair. That same variety also extends to locations as well. Players will travel through mountains, forest, an underwater city belonging to mermaids, snowy peaks, a large city, and Dr. Leo's own lab. Dr. Leo's house is easily my favorite area of the game. It's a normal house that has a giant lab underneath it serving as the dungeon. The souls that players save in this area are mostly houseplants and mice. Adding to the uniqueness of this location is a secondary dungeon that is a model village built by Dr. Leo. While here the player is basically a giant stomping around and killing toy soldiers. These settings stand out from the typical fantasy locations in games and make for an interesting change of pace. If there's one place that's completely forgettable, it's the Snowy Mountains. It's filled with little people that live short lives and everything just feels a bit bland to me. In all fairness though, this is probably just my bias speaking. I've never been fond of ice levels in games. They just look so drab with all the white or blue that I can't bring myself to care about them. But let's get back to the meat of the game, shall we? After the Soul Blazer succeeds in collecting all 6 gems, he still isn't quite ready to take on Deathtoll. Our hero will also need to collect the Soul Sword and Soul Armor, as well as 3 artifacts to let him make use of the Phoenix magic. This might require players to do some backtracking at this point, but it's not too bad. Early areas are easy to burn through since most monsters stay dead after their nests are destroyed. The whole process might take about half an hour, but that just depends on how thorough players were their first time through these areas. With all this power in their hands, players are finally ready to tackle Deathtoll. He's one of the tougher battles in the game. I ended up having to take this boss on a few times before finally putting an end to him. With Deathtoll gone, the world of evil is sealed and the Soul Blazer returns to the Master. However, not all is well. A year after Deathtoll's defeat, the Master notices the Soul Blazer is unhappy. It turns out he misses being on Earth among the humans, plants, and animals. The Master offers him the chance to return to his life as a human, but there's a catch. The Soul Blazer can't keep his memories when he starts his new life. This would normally be a kind of like, oh no moment, but considering the lack of relationships between the player and characters in the game, it doesn't have as much weight as it could. Either way, the Soul Blazer agrees and is sent back down to Grass Valley. He meets Lisa again, who's a little distraught by the loss of his memories, but the two kick off their relationship once more and everything ends on a happy note. It's worth pointing out that Soul Blazer doesn't offer much in the way of challenge. The Soul Blazer can swing his sword in a massive arc that makes hitting enemies incredibly easy. Hey, I'll take that over the short range of sword swings in A Link to the Past any day. Another skill in the Sword Blazer's repertoire that makes the game a bit too simple is just sticking his sword out. No, seriously, this is easily the best way to go about killing monsters in the game, whether they be normal ones or bosses. The couple of bosses that this strategy doesn't work on, Death Toll and whatever this jerk's name is, are much harder because of this. Magic is another easy way to blast through enemies in this game. It doesn't seem to work on bosses though, but that's great in my opinion. It left me feeling like I didn't need to conserve my magic for some big boss battle. As a result, I made liberal use of magic when clearing out dungeons. The only exception to this is Death Toll. Players have to use the Phoenix magic to defeat him. It's easy enough to grind up gems for using magic in the final dungeons thanks to these spinning square things. Players will also likely gain some extra levels while doing this too, which makes the final battle easier as well, so no problem there. There's also an alternative method that I didn't pursue. Players can collect 8 emblems of the Master, some of which are simple enough to find just by playing the game. They can then complete a side quest that grants them the Magic Bell. When equipped, the Magic Bell makes magic free to cast. As I've already said, the cost of using magic in Soul Blazer isn't in any way ridiculous enough that this needs to be done, but it is an option for players that are looking to spend a little extra time with the game. It's also worth pointing out that the soundtrack and graphics in Soul Blazer are a treat. There's plenty of variety in both songs and locations. Adding to that, some of the music is just way too catchy to not enjoy long after beating this game. Looking back at it, Soul Blazer is one of the better games in the Super Nintendo library. It's got some strange moments for sure, such as the stiff dialogue, but they don't hold it back too much. There's just something about its special brand of quirkiness that sets it apart from other games on the platform. Kinda like Earthbound, but not in the exact same way. I'm going to continue on with these Quintet games in future reviews. I'll be focusing on the trilogy at first, so Illusion of Gaia and Terenigma. I've actually played ActRaiser fairly recently and I didn't record it, and I don't have access to the Grand Stream Saga right now, so it might be a little while before I get around to them, but I will eventually for future videos. Unfortunately, these Quintet games don't have modern releases. That's a real shame as they're something special, and many players don't have an official way of experiencing them today. I'd love to see a collection put out for modern consoles, but that seems unlikely. Quintet is long gone, and I have no idea who even owns the rights to these games anymore. Players will just have to get creative if they want to check them out. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.